Turnstile just got nominated for 5 Grammys. Yes, you heard me correctly, 5 Grammys. Today I want to talk about, does that matter, or is it just a status symbol, and are the Grammys out of touch? And what does Metallica have to do with all of this? Let's go. What's up, you guys? My name is Tyler Herrera, and this is Hardcore Dropout. And yes, you heard me correctly. Turnstile has 8 Grammy nominations since 2021. But what do we got going on this year? So this year we have Best Rock Performance. They are sitting next to Youngblood. They're sitting next to Hayley Williams, Linkin Park, and Amyl and the Sniffers. Super cool to see them on here next to Hayley Williams, you know, with their recent collaboration on Never Enough. And then they just toured with Amyl and the Sniffers. And, you know, Amyl and the Sniffers seems to be pretty big and blowing up over the last, you know, I actually don't know how long. I just know that every time I mention them to someone, it seems like there's a really good response. So that doesn't surprise me there. But what's really impressive is like Turnstile next to Linkin Park. And, you know, of course, Linkin Park is nominated for a Grammy here. Like, it's Linkin fucking Park. The Emptiness Machine is a fantastic song, you know, huge comeback for them post Chester Bennington. Next up, this one's real quirky, and this is what I really want to talk about today. They got nominated for Best Metal Performance for Birds. Yes, I get it. Birds has some crossover feel to it, but is it a metal performance? I don't know. Real quick, they are next to Spirit Box on this, Sleep Token for Sleep Token's Emergence, next to Ghost, and then next to Dream Theater. So does Turnstile, I don't want to say deserve to be on here, but is it relevant for them to be on here? Questionable, you know, we'll talk about that in a minute. Sleep Token being on here for Emergence, like, come on, that's a fucking pop song with some metal riffs, like, and I don't know. I just don't think Sleep Token at this point is really a metal band. Next up, we got Best Rock Song. Turnstile got nominated for Never Enough. And then Best Rock Album next to Youngblood again, next to Linkin Park again, next to Haim, and next to Deftones for Private Music. So Never Enough is standing next to some giants, you know, like Linkin Park and Deftones. That's nothing to blink at. That is a very big deal. That Turnstile, this hardcore band from Baltimore, is standing next to some of the biggest rock bands in the history of rock. Not just like modern rock, but rock, period. Like Linkin Park is a top 10 rock band of all time. So for Never Enough to be listed right next to their comeback album is a huge feat in and of itself. Lastly, Best Alternative Music Performance, Parachute by Hayley Williams. And then we got a song from Wet Leg. We got The Cure, and then Bon Iver, as well as Seeing Stars from Turnstile. Like, how fucking cool. They're next to The Cure, Bon Iver, again, Hayley Williams, and Best Alternative Music Performance, like, makes total sense. Turnstile is a hardcore band, if you ask me. Hardcore does not have to fit into one, you know, narrow, purist idea of sound. I think the idea behind hardcore musically is to explore different sounds, you know, and even then, at the end of the day, Turnstile still has a lot of songs that still, you know, honor their hardcore roots, even as they have taken a more alternative kind of pop rock oriented sound. But Turnstile is still a hardcore band. Let me get that straight. Go to one of their shows, try telling me they're not a hardcore band. But let's go back to the metal performance real quick for Birds. So the reason I mentioned Metallica in this is because back in 1992, they won for Enter Sandman. They won for the Black Album. Obviously, Enter Sandman is on the Black Album. They won Best Metal Performance. But let's watch this clip together real quick. Best Metal Performance in 1992. We got Anthrax. We got Soundgarden. We got Megadeth. 18. We got, of course, Metallica. And then we got Motorhead. So very appropriate, you know, very appropriate bands. These are all metal bands, right? And so I think that's very cool. Let's watch Metallica.
Let's see. I think the first thing we got to do is, obviously, like you guys were expecting, is we got to thank Jethro Tull for not putting out an album this year, right?
That right there.
Obviously, we got to thank the Academy for giving Jethro Tull the award in 1989. Read between the lines, know what I mean? So...
Classic Lars being a not so subtle asshole, but, rightfully so. So what he's talking about right here is in 1989, Jethro Tull won Best Metal Performance for their album. Their album at the time, Crest of a Knave, won, and it beat out Jane's Addiction, Iggy Pop, and AC/DC, but it beat out And Justice for All by Metallica, of course, right? So... read this right here. I think this summarizes it pretty well. This choice led to widespread criticism of the Academy as journalists suggested that Jethro Tull's music did not belong in either the hard rock or heavy metal genres. Duh. Most importantly, this incident is often considered an example of the Grammy Awards being out of touch with popular sentiment and was named the biggest upset in Grammy history by Entertainment Weekly. So I think that is what, that's what I really want to talk about right here, right? So Turnstile is absolutely a hardcore band, and has absolutely tapped into alternative music as well with this current run that they've been on with Glow On and now Never Enough. But Turnstile getting nominated for a a metal performance Grammy is just fucking silly. I don't care how thrashy or crossover Birds is. It's not a metal performance. And I think it's another illustration of, the Grammy Awards being out of touch with popular sentiment, even Sleep Token being on there. I get Sleep Token getting a Grammy nod, right? They deserve that. But for a metal performance, just kind of silly. I think there's a lot better metal out there, true metal. Even this band Age of Apocalypse, very, niche compared to a lot of this stuff. But there's just so much good metal out there right now, right? Turnstile getting this award illustrates this, kind of naivete and out of touchness of the Grammy Awards, but I still think it's important. And here's why. I can recall back to last year when Beyonce won for Cowboy Carter, and I think she got Album of the Year for that. And the only reason I know that is because in my meeting at work the day after the Grammys, with, in a very corporate setting with people who, are going to be in touch with pop music, as opposed to being in touch with Turnstile, it got brought up and, my coworkers debated over it. And I just remember that moment. And my point is that Grammys are still part of popular culture. We don't really have that much of a mainstream kind of monoculture anymore because everyone is on their own social media feeds that are curated to their liking, right? So we have all these fractured channels of culture, but Grammys, football, basketball, baseball, those, the Academy Awards, Oscars, those are some of the few remaining, sections of monoculture. So while I don't think it does much for hardcore, I don't think it matters. I don't think Turnstile could even give a shit. I'm sure they would be grateful if they won for any of these. I just think it's still really cool that hardcore has broken out to this level to reach into, one of these last areas of monoculture we have while still maintaining such a identity that is so true to hardcore. Again, you may disagree with me that Turnstile is a hardcore band. Frankly, I think you're wrong. If you do disagree with that, we can talk about their sound being, having expanded beyond the traditional sounds of hardcore. But I'm telling you, go see a Turnstile show. Go watch videos of a Turnstile show. They have taken all the energy and elements of hardcore. They've expanded on it. They've taken it to a new audience, and they are so obviously staying true to everything that hardcore taught them and building off of that. I mean, that's why they had Speed open up for them on this last tour. So my point is, this is a big moment. Does it mean that hardcore is, going to be mainstream? No. Do I care about that? No. I would rather hardcore stay in the hands of the people that devote their life to it, right? But it's a big moment because it just shows how far hardcore has come. I don't know if a hardcore band has been nominated for a Grammy before, but what I do know is that Turnstile is a very special band who keeps everything that they've learned from hardcore top of mind as they grow way, way, way beyond any of our expectations of a hardcore band. So congrats to Turnstile, congrats to Spirit Box, love Spirit Box, congrats to Haley Williams, congrats to Deftones, Linkin Park. I'm sure, sure it's a little more common for them to get Grammy nominations, but nonetheless, a cool moment in alternative music, a cool moment in hardcore music. And if you want to hang out with me some more, you can find me on Twitch. Again, my name is Tyler. This is Hardcore Dropout. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Talk to you soon.